Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. What if I told you the only thing standing between you and your next big opportunity is your voice? This isn't just another program. Empower Your Message is your ticket to becoming the podcast guest everyone wants. You'll learn how to craft a pitch that gets a hell yes, show up with unshakable confidence, and drop truth bombs that leave hosts and audiences wanting more. No more playing small. No more waiting for permission. It's your time to be heard. Loud, clear, and unforgettable. Visit the link in the show notes to sign up, and let's make your voice impossible to ignore. The mic is waiting. Are you ready? Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Julie Ryan. She is a psychic medium, a medical intuitive, an author, a podcast host, and she refers to herself as a buffet of psychicness. I love that. Welcome, Julie. How are you today?
Thanks, Brad. I'm just delighted to be here. So I'm wonderful. Thanks.
I am honored and so excited to jump in. I've been so looking forward to this conversation because I just love talking about all this stuff. I cannot wait to dive in. So with that being said, let us do exactly that. So that is one hell of a resume. A lot of hats you wear, Julie. And all of these hats you wear are very closely tied in together with one common thread, and that would be spirituality. So what was the moment or experience then that first cracked you open to your spiritual path, and how did you know this was your work or your soul's calling?
Couple of stories there, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm a businesswoman. I've invented surgical devices, sold throughout the world, and manufactured them. And I've founded 9 companies in 5 industries. Plus, I'm an author and podcaster and all that stuff.
You're a badass.
I forget ADD. People go, how all those different things relate? And I said, they really don't, except I took money from one and started another one because I had an idea, like maybe we could do that differently. Anyway, about a little over 30 years ago, Brad, I had this friend of mine give me a book called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mace. And she called herself a medical intuitive. And I was interested in medical stuff because I was inventing and manufacturing surgical devices. So I was really interested in helping people heal through the traditional routes, through the hospital, through surgery, that kind of thing. And I thought, what the heck's a medical intuitive? And I never heard that term before. Back then, we didn't have the internet yet.
Right.
Oh, I went to a Barnes & Noble bookstore because I thought they're more likely to have more woo stuff than even my local library.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did. And I found a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, who was a former NASA physicist. She's deceased now. She was a former NASA physicist who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles into understandable languaging. And she used energy to help heal. And that really piqued my interest, Brad. So I called her school and I said, you guys got anybody teaching this stuff in my area? And sure enough, they did. They said, yes, we have a graduate who just opened a school. And I studied with her for 6 years. And she took the Barbara Brennan stuff and Kabbalistic healing and lots of other methodologies and came up with her own goulash, if you will, of energy healing stuff. So that's what drew me in. Initially, I didn't have any of these skills that I knew of. I went through 12 years of Catholic schools, so I learned about angels and saints and the Holy Spirit and that kind of thing. But I am not somebody who had dead people chasing her as a child. I don't have any memory of that, Brad, let alone if I did, what I would have done with that information. So this was all new to me. And I had no skill sets, but I was just interested. So I studied with her for 6 years. And what I realized, I went in for the healing side, and I'm like a human MRI now. I do this with you. I can scan anybody anywhere in the world, even if you were in a planet far away, I could find you. And I hook into you, and then it's like I'm in an X-ray or a CT scan or an MRI, and I can see inside people's bodies with their permission, of course, bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, whatever. And then I help facilitate energetic healings because nobody ever heals anybody else, ever. No doctor, no medical provider, no healer, no shaman, nobody. You go to the emergency room with a big cut on your leg, and the doctor's going to stitch it up, but the doctor doesn't make your skin grow back. You make your own skin grow back. So the work that I do in the healing side of the equation is all part of the overall big healing equation, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, whatever. So that's how I got into it initially. And then when I really dove in, this is the second part of the story, and I wrote my book, Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next. I saw angels and deceased loved ones and pet spirits surrounding my mother in 2002 when she was dying. I'd never been around anybody who was dying before. And I'd been studying woo-woo for about 10 years, but I was running my companies, and I'm a mom and a wife, and I was busy.
Yeah.
So one day I'm with my mentor and teacher, and when she's doing a healing on me, Brad, my deceased loved one's spirits line both sides of the table on me. So my parents, my grandparents, my late sister, my brother-in-law, my dead dog, Katie, who's on her hind legs and her little paws are up on the table. And one day this spirit of this dead Pope shows up.
A dead Pope?
Dead Pope. He's got his Pope hat on and his shepherd's rod. Led to him, "Hi there, who are you?" He said, "I'm Clement." And I said, "Okay. I never heard of a Pope Clement. I'm so sorry." And he said, I was number 6. He was laughing. And he said, "You're supposed to teach the world what happens when somebody dies. Because you know what happens, and it's been bastardized throughout the millennia, and everybody's afraid. And there's nothing to be afraid of. It's glorious, and you know that." And I said, "Thanks so much for your vote of confidence, but I'm really not interested." So,
Thanks.
And I said, "I'm a businesswoman. People think I'm nuts."
Yeah.
I put myself out there and teach people this. He said, "Yeah, everything you've done in your career has prepared you for this. You just need to get on with it and just go do it." He's like a Nike ad. Just go do it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Thanks again, but I'm really not interested. But thanks for stopping by." So, and my mentor, Susan, could see him too, Brad, and hear him. And I, a few minutes later, got in the car to go home. And just for kicks, I just looked up Pope Clement VI. Come to find out, this guy was in office during the Black Plague. Best known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead. And I'm thinking, I can't make that up.
No.
There's no way. So it took a couple more years before I got the golden ovary courage, because guys have brass balls and girls have golden ovaries. Till I had the courage to write Angelic Attendants and really put myself out there. And that's another fun story we can talk about later.
So that was the start of your journey into this world and writing the book,
Writing
Angelic Attendants.
Yeah, he said, "You got to teach the world." And I'm thinking, oh, for heaven's sakes. May I tell you the rest of the story?
Yeah, sure. Might as well. We're on the story kick.
By the way, anybody that wants a free copy of Angelic Attendants as a gift for listening to us today, just go to askjulieryan.com. Cover page, you'll see, click here for a free book. We'll send you a free digital and audiobook version. And we have it in Spanish too.
Awesome. I will put that in the show notes as well when we release your episode.
So a couple years go by. I'm sitting in church Sunday morning. I'm between my husband and my son. And the priest from the altar during his sermon is saying, "Wouldn't it be nice if we really knew if we're greeted by angels and our loved ones' spirits when we die and we go, and then they escort us to heaven?" And I'm getting elbowed from either side, but my husband and my son. And I'm thinking, seriously, God, you're giving me grief about this from the altar in the middle of Mass? I said, all right. So I wrote Angelic Attendants, put the website, askjulieryan.com up. And I thought, all right, let's see what happens. A few weeks later, I'm lecturing at a business conference, mostly C-suite executives, primarily men. I'm giving my business talk. And at the end of it, this man comes up to me. He's got his iPad open to askjulieryan.com. And I thought, oh, here we go. And he said, "Is this your picture? Is this you?" And I'm thinking, "That's my picture. Yes, it is."
You could clearly see.
But I was professional. I was smiling. I said, "Wait, why, yes, it is." And he said, "I'm really interested in learning more. Can we sit together at lunch?" And I said, "Sure." And in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, great. I get pummeled about this for an hour at lunch."
Yeah. Yeah.
Long story short, I sit at a table of 8 people. It's 7 C-suite executive men and me. And all they wanted to talk about was woo. They didn't want to talk about the conference. They didn't want to talk about
business.
what the topic was or how their businesses were going. It was, they all were interested in the woo-woo. And so I said, okay, all right, I'm in full bore. And so I sold my medical device company and here I am.
The rest is
20 years
history,
later.
as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. So those were some pretty big signs
Yeah.
that got me to really dip my toe into this. And then I was getting signs along the way. And those were the big ones to say, yeah, this is your path. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Wow. So when you look back at your childhood, then there were no signs or signals or anything, any of that at all.
The only thing I knew about that was my mother used to read the Jean Dixon horoscope column in the newspaper every morning to get her fortune told, her astrology prediction. And that was my only.
So your gifts didn't come online till later? Or they didn't come online. They were always there, but they just didn't come online till later in life. That's wild.
I was in my mid-30s. No, I learned how to do all this stuff, and I teach people all over the world how to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody has the ability. We all have thought of somebody, Brad, and they either call us or they email us or they text us or we run into them and we say, "Oh my God, what a coincidence. I was just thinking of you earlier today." It's no coincidence. That's your intuition. And furthermore, we're all healers because most of us have comforted a child or a baby that falls and skins their knee or whatever. And we comfort them and we kiss their boo-boo and we send them on to go play. What are we doing? We're being a healer. We're doing energetic healing. We're just not aware of it. So what I learned when I started studying this stuff was, although in the woo-woo space, and woo means source in Taoism, by the way.
Okay.
So in the woo-woo space, you got the psychics and the mediums and the pet psychics and the NDEers and the healers and the whatever. What I learned was once I connected into spirit, I could do it all. And there's no reason to segment it. So that's why I say I'm a businesswoman who learned how to do woo, and I'm a buffet of psychicness.
That's where the term came from. I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
When I talk to somebody for an hour on an appointment, or I do a live show every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, and people call in from all over the world. It's a blast, Brad. We can talk to your dead grandma. I can scan you medically. I can scan your cat. We can do a past life. I can tell how close to death somebody is. We can get guidance from your angels and your spirit guides. It's so much fun. So once we connect with spirit, we can do it all.
Yeah. Amazing. So was there any single experience that made you say, I can't ignore this anymore, I need to develop it? Was there a pivotal moment for you as your gifts came online? I know you're talking about in church and you got the elbows. Was there one specific, though, that said, okay, I have to do this now? There's no more putting it off. There's no more saying thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, it was church. And then when I gave that talk at that business conference, I was like, all right, I'm in. That was a divine message, I believe, with God saying, okay, quit screwing around with this. Here's these, and they're men. They weren't even women. Women usually are more interested in woo-woo than men on the outside.
Yes.
These guys were all C-suite executives, and all they wanted to talk about was spiritual stuff. And that was a huge, huge eye-opener for me. And I thought, okay, all right. So that was really the catalyst that said, all right, I'm in full force.
Not even Pope Clemens VI.
Probably. And the funniest
thing, no thanks.
The funniest thing about him, Brad, is he's still my main spirit guide. And whenever I bring him in or I call him, I'm talking to him, he always has his Pope hat on. Still, after all these years, I said to him, I said, Clement, I know who you are. You don't have to wear the hat. And he said, but it looks good, don't you think? They said, yeah, it looks good. Because back then in the 14th century, the hats that they wore were bejeweled. They weren't just that pointy hat
Yeah.
thing. And so I have an image of him that I use for lectures and things. And it's like almost a crown. It
Wow.
looks like a beehive, but it's got
Yeah.
gold leaf and pearls and all kinds of stuff on it. And that's when the
Amazing.
Holy See was in France.
Holy crap.
So he was during the Black Plague, he was in France and he was blessing the river because people were dying so fast. They were throwing bodies in the river that would be carried out to sea. So he blessed the river. So all of these corpses could be thrown into the river because they couldn't handle it. There were so many people dying.
So what's the moment then in your work where you looked at the invisible world and thought, holy shit, this changes everything we think about what we know about life?
What we know about life and death, because I would say the death part was the first thing that was the major shift for me, because most of us in the Western world, Judeo-Christian culture, we're taught about heaven and hell. And when we're dying, are we going to fly or are we going to fry? A thing.
Fly or fry, your choice.
Fly or fry, yeah. I heard that from my pastor, from my priest. And
Never heard that before.
I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that. He said you have full permission. But really, we've taught about, my God, when I was little in Catholic school, I remember, I think I was 7, probably maybe even 6, because it was second grade and I wasn't 7 till May. I was probably 6. And we were making our first confession. And I remember standing there in line and thinking, what sins have I committed? What sins does a 6-year-old commit?
Yeah.
And so I told the priest when I got in the confessional, I stole a cookie from the cookie jar. But we're taught at a young age, you steal a cookie from the cookie jar or you eat meat on Friday back then, you're going to go burn in hell for eternity. And no, you're not. That's nonsense. And so the thing that I've learned, Brad, is that everybody goes to heaven. We're all surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. We're escorted to heaven by the deceased loved ones and pets and angels. And that was a big change. And some people get really belligerent about, oh, hell really exists, blah, 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 blah. I've heard it from a bazillion spirits. I've seen it thousands of times. Everybody goes to heaven. That was a big shift. The other big shift because of that is not only that there isn't anything to fear, but if that's the worst thing that can happen to us when we die, we're escorted to heaven by angels and all of our loved ones' spirits are in heaven waiting for us. There's this big, I call them the Welcome to Heaven Committee. And there's all these people, and we can talk about that more, about what happens when somebody's dying. If that's the worst thing that can happen, okay, bring it on. Gives me the impetus to try new things that perhaps I wasn't willing to try because I was afraid that I was going to have some huge repercussions. Now, I'm not going to jump off a bridge without my swimmies on or my inner tube, but it's given me the mindset of bring it on. Nothing is that serious if we go to heaven.
I'm going to assume here too, because I've talked to many people that know people who have or have personally experienced NDEs or OBEs. There's always somebody there to greet them, to say, now, obviously the people I've spoken to, there's been someone there to say, it's not your time, you have to go back. That's just wild to me.
I know. But that's different from when somebody's actually dying.
Yeah.
Totally different set of variables that unfold.
The fact that there's a loved one there to tell them that it's time, it's not your time, you've got to go back. There is a loved one there, whether it be to tell them that. There will be loved ones there to greet them as they cross over. Just the similarity there between someone being there to tell them it's either yes, it's your time, or no, it's not. You've got to go back.
And that those loved ones are around us all the time and we can talk to them any time, any moment. Most of us do it now. We don't realize we're getting communication from them. We think, oh, it's just our imagination. And yet, you want to know how you do it? Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
Everybody can do it. Super easy. I don't know why people make this complicated. It's not. Our heads are like big satellite dishes, Brad. They receive and transmit frequencies. Every spirit has a frequency they keep throughout all their lifetimes. Every thought has a frequency as well. So who do you want to talk to? You want to talk to your dead grandmother? You think of Nana, that tunes your satellite dish head to her frequency, and it opens up something similar to a two-way radio communication. And you say something to grandma, to your Nana. And Nana's going to answer you, and it's going to feel like a thought in your head. How you know that's her with whom you're conversing? It's that first thought, fast as you can snap your finger, that comes into your head. If you think about it for more than a second or two, that's your brain. Sometimes, once you get good at this, oftentimes you'll get the thought from your Nana in your head before your thought's even done being thought out all the way. And you're thinking, okay, that's my imagination. No, it's not, because time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a linear human concept. So your Nana already has your thought, and she's answering you before you even finish thinking the thought. It's that easy. It's that easy. And a couple of things. We can communicate with any spirit, whether it's attached to our body or not. That's how I do the medical stuff. My spirit connects with their spirit. That's how I'm a human MRI. We can talk with any spirit that's in heaven. Again, everybody goes to heaven. All spirits are in heaven. Heaven, I'm using air quotes, whatever you want to call it. And you don't have to have known that person. Do you want to talk to Mother Teresa, Moses, Elvis? Don't matter. You think of them, and that tunes your satellite dish head into their frequency, and you can have a conversation with them on any topic.
It's funny you bring this up and talk about my Nan. You use the word Nana, and that's what I used to call her. And so yesterday I was out walking my pup, and she sends me signs. She sends me feathers all the time. But I've noticed in the last, I would say, year, I guess, those signs have dwindled. I don't get them as often. They're very sparingly, very far and few between. But I do talk to her every day when I'm on my walks or whatever, and I just want to talk to her. Yesterday, I was walking my pup, and we just got across the street in an intersection, and I stopped and I looked down, and Julie, there had to be about 10 or 12 feathers sitting at my feet. And I thought, amazing. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, universe, for the sign. But what does this mean? Like, why are you sending me these feathers today? I haven't gotten a sign from you in so long and so many. There's got to be something important you're trying to tell me. I haven't figured it out. I haven't really sat with it yet to think on it, but I just thought it's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And I didn't ask for the signs. Usually when I do ask for them, I do get them, which is amazing. And it's so comforting. But yesterday it was just it was reminiscent of the very first sign. One of the very first signs I got from her. There was many more than what I saw yesterday. It was like, my first thought was, my God, a cat must have coughed up a bird here, because I've never seen this many feathers. And I kept walking. This was one of the first signs I ever got. And I kept walking. I was going to my mom's house, and I saw the feathers, and I thought, okay, because I'd had a couple signs before that, so I knew it was her. And I left them there, and I walked on. I came back about half an hour later. All the feathers were gone. It was like they never existed.
Yeah.
And I know that they were just there for me personally, but I've never seen that many feathers other than that very first time. The amount I saw yesterday, I just thought, what are you trying to tell me? What's the message here? I still haven't wrapped my head around it. I haven't figured it out.
Her spirit is on your right. As soon as you think of them, they come in immediately. So her spirit's on your right. And I asked her when you said that, I don't know what it means. She said to remind you that spirits don't read your mind. When you ask them for help or for a sign, they will absolutely participate in your life. They're sending us guidance. They're watching what's happening, but they're not reading our minds. I think that's something a lot of people believe. And I've been told a lot by spirit, that's an invasion of our privacy, and they don't want to affect our free will. So they don't read our minds. Your grandmother, your Nana, is saying you must have voiced that you were like, Nana, where are my feathers? And so she said she wanted to send you a bunch of feathers to let you know, okay, I'm hearing you. Here are the feathers. Let me give you a really big sign here.
But I've also heard that when we get to a certain point in our journey, in our spiritual journey, and we've communicated and we've gotten all these signs from whoever it is that we're communicating with, that we reach a point where the person on the other side of the veil realizes and thinks that they don't need the signs anymore. They know there's no need to send them the signs as frequently or as often or at all. That like for me, an example, I have thought about, and someone else, a couple people have told me that I've reached a point where my Nana knows I don't need the signs anymore, that I know she's there. And that's why they haven't been coming as frequently. So I don't know.
So I'm talking to spirit while you're talking, and I'm saying, is that true? And I'm hearing, no. What I'm hearing is, again, they don't interfere unless we ask. So ask for signs if you want them. The people who believe that they're advanced enough in spirit communication that they don't need the signs anymore, they're probably not asking for them. And so that's what I'm getting on that. I have a friend, Perdita Finn, who every morning before she gets out of bed, she has this like little clipboard, I guess, in her next door bed. And she writes out, okay, Mom, I need you to do this. Dad, these are all spirits in heaven.
Yeah.
Dad, I need you to do that. Aunt Henrietta, I need you to help my daughter with this. Uncle Harvey, do this. Saint whoever, I need you to do that. And so I've also had lots of people on the show over the years who communicate with angels and channel angels. And they say angels are just begging for jobs. They want us to give them tasks. Parking spaces, obviously, are gone.
Yes, I hear that a lot.
I have a parking space, but even more, I had a woman on the show who's a physician. Her name's Jean Slatter, and she said that she has a book called Hiring the Heavens, and it's about angels. And she said, I'm a sole practitioner. I have one person who's an assistant in my office, and I ask the angels to do my marketing, to do my scheduling, to do my whatever. And she said, and I've built a pretty big practice with that, with just one assistant. And my colleagues have this big team of people. And she said, my team's in heaven. And she tells the story too, Brad, about a friend of hers who read the book. And she said to the angels, this friend said, one morning she was saying, hey, angels, those of you that are available, can you show up? And the next thing, her room was full of angels. And they all said, we're available for hire. What do you need us to do? And so I think that that's something that most of us don't really understand. We understand praying to different loved ones or saints. And it's not just Judeo-Christian. For heaven's sakes, the Eastern cultures pray to their ancestors and have since the beginning of time. The Greeks, the Romans, all cultures do it. And it's just a matter of us remembering, okay, that's a resource that we have that we can tap into at any moment. It's free, it's fast, and it's convenient because it works anywhere your brain is, and your brain's usually with you wherever you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've learned your skills. What belief did you have to completely demolish within yourself before those gifts could fully switch online? You could fully embrace them. Was there anything?
That I really could do it. The validation that comes in when we're talking with a loved one's spirit. And my favorite story, if I may share it with a client, and I do this all the time on the show and then also with private clients. I had a woman and she had just lost her mom recently, like maybe a month or two before we were speaking. She was so distraught, in grief. And when we talk to our loved ones in spirit for the first time, many of us expect some earth-shattering, life-altering piece of advice that's going to just really enlighten us. And that rarely comes through, if ever. Okay. So the first thing her mom's spirit from heaven says is, you need to throw out your peanut butter. The daughter's going, really, Mom? That's the first thing you want to tell me? And she said, what do you mean I need to throw out my peanut butter? She goes, you need to throw out your peanut butter. And I said to her, do you use peanut butter a lot? And she said, yeah, my kids love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I put them in their lunches every day. I said, just for kicks, just go look at the expiration date on your peanut butter. So she goes to her pantry, and Brad, her peanut butter had expired a year prior to the day we were talking. Stuff can grow in there.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
her mom from heaven was worried about her grandbabies. And she said, you need to throw out your peanut butter. So they come in with all kinds of interesting things. They oftentimes, I'll say it's almost like they want to put us on a treasure hunt. They'll show us a sign. One of my other favorite stories was this woman whose husband had died, and she was just, again, in deep grief. And she said, he's not sending me any signs. I don't feel him. I don't hear from him, blah, 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 blah. And first of all, that's because spirits are really high vibration, doesn't have the density of a body. When our spirit's attached to our body, it slows down the vibration. That's number one. Number two, spirit's always communicating with us, but we've got to be on the high vibration channels to receive it. Because spirit communication, we can't access it on the I feel crappy channels when we're in grief or we're mad or whatever. Right. It's like your satellite TV. There are maybe 800 or 1,000 shows being broadcast simultaneously. Where is your channel tuned? That frequency is what's going to be what you're receiving. Same thing with spirit communication. So this woman was just distraught. Her husband said, look for the peacock. This woman said to me, I live in Boston. We don't have peacocks here. Like Florida, in some neighborhoods, they're wild and they roam around. She said, we don't have any peacocks here. That's ridiculous. I said, all right, just look for the peacock. Be open. You may see it on TV. You may see it in an ad. You may see it on a piece of jewelry. You may whatever.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, she emailed me, Brad, and she said, I opened my computer after we hung up and I went to my Facebook page. And the first thing that showed up was this huge photo of a peacock with all of his feathers spread out.
So you just can't make this shit up.
Exactly. I say that all the time. So lots and lots of stories. I have thousands of stories like that.
So something I've also heard about when people first cross over, a part of why they don't communicate right away is because they have so much work to do on the other side before they can settle into things. Is that right?
That's not been my experience.
Okay.
I'm talking with spirit as they're dying. I'm talking with spirit anytime. I talk with spirit as soon as they get there. That's not been my experience.
Okay. Now, teaching these psychic abilities, medical, intuitive abilities, all of these things, they're learned. What was the moment you realized that the impossible was actually trainable and not some rare spiritual lottery?
Oh, that everybody had the ability to do this? Great question. Probably when I was doing it myself, because I didn't think I had any abilities. And then I was working on people, some in my class, some family and friends. I first started doing this all those years ago, Brad. He said, why are you doing this? Why are you studying this stuff? I said, I don't know. It's just interesting. And they said, and I go once a week for a class, like on a Wednesday night for 3 hours or something. And they'd say, what are you going to do with it? I'd say, I have no clue. It's just interesting. And look at me now. All that foundation was being laid. What I've found is that everybody can do this. And I've educated hundreds and hundreds of people from around the world. I think we have graduates from 14 or 15 countries now.
Wow.
From all walks of life, housewives, plumbers, retired teachers, tons of professors, tons of professionals, Broadway star, Hollywood actresses, orchestra conductors, scientists, honest surgeons, physicians. They're all learning this stuff. And then they take it back into their everyday lives and they use it to help them on their path. Like somebody who's a physician is using energetic healing in addition to the Western or Eastern medicine that they're practicing. It helps them help their patients heal. And it gives them another tool in their medicine bag. Somebody who's a teacher will use it in the classroom, regardless of if they're teaching little teeny kids or if they're at the college level. I think we've had professors from, I want to say 17 different areas, like different areas of study, like archaeology and nursing and art and whatever, English. And they take these skills and they use them to help them enhance whatever it is they're interested in doing in life. So everybody has the ability. The thing that surprised me the most on the medical side is how spirit communicates to us and to me in a way that we can understand it from a human perspective. For example, I may tell you that your elbow looks like whipped cream. That sounds nutty. Yeah. And yet you can envision it, and it's an analogy for an energetic healing that's happening. When we envision it, it helps us integrate the healing into our bodies, much like how our bodies are going to believe what our brain shows it, even if our brain doesn't believe it. You're watching some animated movie and there's a sad part, you find yourself getting a little weepy and you're thinking, oh my God, this is pretend and it's even animated. And here I am getting weepy. The body's going to follow it. The other thing that I find fascinating about how spirit communicates, as an example, I watch new organs get generated in the body with stem cell energy. Any body part we can regenerate with stem cell energy. Like a kidney, I can watch a plastic mold, it looks like, what I use in manufacturing surgical devices. I see a plastic mold. I see stem cell energy going in it. I see a vortex above it. I watch the diseased kidney plumbing get clamped. I watch the diseased kidney get removed. I watch the new stem cell generated kidney get put in. I watch the plumbing get all hooked up, clamp removed. It's so funny, Brad, because I always see the new organ light up, and then there's this noise. It sounds like a Harley started, like a diesel motor, whether it's a kidney or a lung or whatever. And then many times throughout the years, those new organs show up on subsequent scans at the doctor's office or the hospital. It freaks out the doctors. And they were calling me going, what the heck are you doing? How did this stuff work? But back when I first started doing this, like a kidney, I saw several kidney transplants, but it was what I had seen in the operating room. I was in that industry for 30 years. I'd see the donor patient, I'd see the recipient, I'd see the healthy kidney get harvested. And what I've realized is that the reason why I saw it that way was that was my frame of reference and humans' frame of reference. Stem cells and the concept of stem cells regenerating new body parts wasn't part of the zeitgeist yet. Now it is. Whether people understand how it works or not, they've heard of it, most people. So spirit's always going to communicate to us in a way that is going to make sense to us from our human perspective. And spirit is hilarious. Hilarious.
So if every hospital, medical school, clinic on the planet suddenly said, Julie, redesign how we approach healing from the ground up, what would be the first radical change that you would make?
Teach people how to communicate with spirit and get guidance. It's that simple. Because what they do now is they come up with a diagnosis, your height and your weight. They go to their computer, they punch all of that in, and the computer program tells them, okay, give them this medicine, and here's the dose. As if they could be communicating with spirit and say, is this guy really having a heart attack even though all of his vitals are fine? You're going to get communication. What's the best course of action for this person? People come to me, Brad, when they've seen multiple doctors, gotten multiple diagnoses, multiple treatment plans, and they still have the same symptoms. And I'll be able to look inside their body and I'll say, okay, I got mold exposure. Where's the mold? And then we'll scan their house and I'll say, all right, it's on the left wall going up your front staircase. You got a water leak. You got a skylight up there that's leaking. And sure enough, they got a skylight up there, and then they send a roofer out to check it out, and they got a skylight that's leaking. There's water that's gone in between the walls, and it's formed mold. They can't see it from the outside, but I can see the mold inside their body. And so then we reverse it. Not only do we clear it and do a healing, but we're reverse engineering it and going, okay, where's the mold coming from?
Wild.
Yeah.
So, in your quietest, most private moments, is there anything that scares you about the work that you do? Not because it's dark, but because it's so big, it humbles you, brings you to your knees.
No, because I believe that it's spirit working through me and with me on all of this stuff to bring comfort and healing to people. So I believe I'm the conduit. And so it's not about me, it's about me allowing spirit to work through me and with me to help that person heal themselves, whether that be you want to talk to your Nana, or you want to talk to a deceased favorite pet, or you've got a medical thing going on, or you have somebody close to you who's dying and you want to, and they're not able to communicate, and we can communicate with them and find out what they need and find out how close to death they are. And I've come up with what I call the 12 phases of transition. And it's how angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets are configured. What's the configuration around the person who's dying? And that's so helpful to people because when we have a loved one at the end of their lives, people take time off work. Sometimes they travel far distances to be with them. And it's really helpful and really, really comforting when people know, okay, my mom's surrounded by angels, and we can describe what the loved one's spirits look like in the room. And it's so much fun when somebody's dying and I'll say, did your grandmother grow up on a farm or does she live on a farm now? And they'll say, yeah, how'd you know that? I'll say, because there's farm animals in the room. There's cows and ducks and chicks and lammies, and there's a collie and there's a Great Dane. And they'll say, oh yeah, the collie was whatever their name was. And it gives them so much comfort during that time. So what are we doing? We're helping that person heal as they're going through a heart-wrenching situation and help them navigate it, perhaps in a way that's helpful. And then certainly it's comforting to know that nobody ever dies alone, ever. You think about all those COVID people who died alone in the hospital. You think about military people. I always think of the Gold Star families who have a child or a family member or a loved one who died in service, or first responders or anybody, police, firemen, anybody like that. And they think, oh, my son died in wherever by himself. No, he didn't. He was surrounded by angels and loved ones and his spirits, his spirits. And so it's very comforting. So long-winded answer to your question. No, it's not overwhelming. To me, it's glorious.
Okay.
And it's at the end of the day, when I've spoken to 5 clients for 1-hour sessions, I'm jazzed. I'm not tired. I'm wound up because my vibration is so high. And that's the vibration of spirit, which is pure love.
What's been the most powerful proof you've ever witnessed that the spirit world exists beyond a feeling, coincidence, something undeniable? What's the most powerful thing that's proved for you personally?
Wow, I've had so many experiences of that, Brad. Let me see what comes to mind on that. Gosh, lots of physical things. At my mother's funeral, I had her engagement ring on, and it was on my right ring finger, and it was buzzing like crazy. Do you remember those old-fashioned buzzer things that somebody put in their hand, the palm of their hand, and
they go and shake your hand? Yes.
It was buzzing like mad. Just Pope Clement showing up. Pope Clement said, I never heard of the guy. And then he was known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead. I'm like, I can't make that up.
No.
Many other situations where where we've been led to something. We'll do a past life and we'll get all kinds of information, where it was, when it was, what the person's name was, what they died from, what their family members' names were, what was going on. And then we'll correlate that with their current life. And then we'll look it up with historical documentation online, and it's all validated. And I always go, okay, I can't make that up. One of my favorite stories, I was talking with a client who is deceased now, but he was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And the guy had prostate cancer, and it had metastasized. And so we did a past life thing with him, and we found out that he was a French admiral in some big famous Navy battle in the early 1800s or late 1700s with, I think, the British. I don't know. American naval battles, let alone French naval battles.
Yeah.
We got the guy's name. We got his family member's name. We got all this information. It all checked out with historical documentation, number one. Number two, more importantly, we got the emotional component here to this disease that he had was he was very good at leading. He was very good at issuing orders, at coming up with the plan, at getting people to execute his plan, not good at receiving. His disease was forcing him to receive, and he hated it. He hated working with the doctors and the medical staff because they were taking care of him. He hated having his family take care of him because he felt like a burden, and he was used to being in charge. So it was an opportunity for him to learn how to receive in this lifetime. But I think that's a great example of how spirit uses different modalities to reach people in not only the healing part, but the bigger emotional and spiritual component as well.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Now, you communicate with spirits on both sides of the veil. What is, in your opinion, one of the biggest misconceptions humans have about what our loved ones become after they cross over?
They think their personality is the same. For example, excuse me, I had a woman one time, and we were talking to her dad. Her dad had died fairly recently, and she said, "What's my dad doing? He's doing whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it." Because in heaven, what I've heard a bazillion times is they have a thought and it materializes instantly. So they can be skiing the Matterhorn and they have a thought, "Oh, let's go on safari in Africa." And then they're in Africa instantly. And then, "Oh, let's go play golf in Scotland." And they're on the links in Scotland. So she asked what her dad was doing. And it was one of those kind of answers, fishing and salmon waters in Alaska. And she said, "My dad didn't fish. He wouldn't fish." And I said, "That was his personality in that lifetime as you knew him. Now he's pure spirit and he can do anything instantly that he pictures." And that was really hard for her to wrap her head around that. And so when that happens, then I'll ask the spirit to give us some information that will resonate with their daughter or whomever who's here in human form, to let them know it's really them with whom we're conversing. Furthermore, somebody who's just an awful person, an awful human, we think of a Hitler.
Yeah.
And we think, in our generation, certainly, he's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
In my generation. And we think, "Oh, he's burning in hell for eternity." No, he's not. His spirit is pure love. That was a part he was playing, like a part in a movie. We're all playing a role. It's like we're in the movie and his spirit is in heaven. That's really hard for people to wrap their heads around.
That's crazy.
I know. And so furthermore, when the mother spirit is always the one that runs the show when somebody's dying, the mother that raised them, whether it be the birth mother, the adopted mother, if it's a grandmother that raised a person who's dying. It's always that maternal spirit that comes in. And I've had many people over the years say, "Oh God, my mom's the last person I want at my bedside when I'm dying. She was just awful." And I'll say, that was a role she was playing. Her spirit is pure love. When you get to heaven and you see her, you can give her an Oscar and say, "Mom, you were the bitch from hell. You deserve the Academy Award." Seriously. So that's probably the biggest thing that people have a tough time wrapping their head around.
So they're really, what they're doing, like, use Hitler, as you said, he was fulfilling his soul contract to do these horribly evil things to the human race, because that was his soul contract. That's what he chose to do.
And we don't know what his past lives were, Brad. Maybe he was abused. Maybe he was killed in a way. Maybe he was, I don't know, Attila the Hun or somebody. or leading the crusades or whatever. And what I'll see when I do past lives, and this is so fascinating, of course, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have to do it my own way. If somebody says you got to do it this way, I'll come up with another way to do it. And so I do what I call past life scans.
Okay.
And I'm shown where it was, when it was. It's like I'm walking into the scene of a movie. And what I'll find with past lives is there will be a semblance of a script that will repeat throughout multiple lifetimes. Different variables, different time, different place, different language, different set of circumstances, different perspective. So it gives our soul the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. I've been told a whole bunch of times, countless times, there's no right or wrong in the spirit world. It's just an experience. We have right and wrong in the human experience because we need to, because we're here to have the human experience. If we're all running around killing each other, we wouldn't be able to have the human experience. But the analogy that I use for past lives, Brad, is this. Think about how many times has Hamlet been performed since Shakespeare wrote it in 1602. Who knows?
Countless. Yeah,
but you think about, when was it performed? In what language? Where? By whom? What was happening in the world? Was it inside? Was it outside? Who was the customer? Who was the director? All those different variables are going to give you a different perspective each time of the same script. And that's what Spirit sent me as an analogy for past lives. So when we see that there are lots of past lives of exploring a script, it makes sense to us, and it helps us understand what's going on in our current lives and create from that. We all have many scripts of things we want to come in and explore and experience.
I've also heard that people come back to learn the lesson they did not learn in the previous life that they were here. Is that valid?
I don't use the word lesson. I use experience. They want to experience it from a different perspective. For example, somebody's murdered in this lifetime. Perhaps they were a murderer in a past life. Perhaps they were the wife, the husband, the parent, the child, the friend, the colleague of somebody murdered in a bunch of different lifetimes. In this round, they want to experience what it's like to be the person who's murdered. And when we keep in mind that time doesn't exist in the spirit world, time's a human creation, it's feasible that a lifetime of 100 years may not even be a blip on the radar screen in heaven.
That's wild. And so when we hear people talk about that person, you can just tell they're an old soul. Does that, when you think about that, or from my perspective, I would think that they've had many more past lives. They've lived a lot more past lives, and they've been back to the earth multiple. Is that basically what that would mean then?
Yeah, you've had 972 past lives.
I have.
In human form.
I have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just mind-boggling. But remember, time isn't a thing. So may not even be an instant, maybe less than an instant. And then where it really gets my brain jumbled is the concept, which I've heard from Spirit is true, that we live multiple lifetimes concurrently. And my head just wants to go, what?
Yeah.
I feel like Scooby-Doo. And here's the only way that I can process that. First of all, is it feasible? Yes. Do I understand it completely? No. Will I want to get back to heaven? Yeah. So that satisfies me in the moment. But the analogy that I've come up with for that is, you think about something, The Wizard of Oz was recorded in the 1930s, and that was real time in the 1930s. So it's happening every time somebody watches it for almost 100 years now. And we get the same reaction of fear when we're watching The Flying Monkeys. We get the same reaction of fear when the Wicked Witch is chasing Dorothy. We get the same reaction. And it was filmed many years ago, 100 years ago, but it's being watched every day around the world. It's still happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's about the closest thing I've been able to come up with for that.
Okay. Thank you for that. That helps. So you can sense how close someone is to death. What does the energy of nearing the end actually feel like? How does that shift the way that you support the living?
What does the energy feel like?
If you could describe it, if you could put it into a descriptor.
Light, fast-paced, sparkly. That's a visual. They're about 2/3 of the way through. In the last, there's 12 phases of transition. So in the last quarter,
Okay.
between phase 9 and phase 10, there are vortices that there's a vortex that is created above the head of the person who's dying. And that's how the spirit evacuates, detaches from the body. And it's generated by the movement of angels' wings on either side of what I call the spirit bubble. The spirit exits the body through the top of the head. And it looks like a cartoon caption bubble, Brad. What's the cartoon caption? What's a cartoon character thinking or saying? And it stays attached to the top of the head. That's phase 1. And then angels and deceased loved ones, spirits and pets and all that show up. About phase 5, there are 2 additional angels that appear on either side of the spirit bubble.
Okay.
Between 9 and 10, their wings start to move. And it reminded me, the first time I saw this, of course, was with my mother in 2002. And when those angels showed up, I thought, additional angels, I thought, this is going to be interesting. I know they're going to play a role, but I have no clue what they're going to do. So their wings started to move, and it reminded me of a giant owl. If you've ever watched a giant owl fly, either in a documentary or in person, they're silent. Their wings are massive. You could almost feel the drag that they create.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So I'm watching these angels' wings move, and it reminded me of an owl. Before long, this vortex started spinning above my mom's head. It was forming. And I could see it, I could feel it, and I could hear it, Brad. It reminded me of being at the car wash at the end when they turn the dryer on and they're sucking all the water off the top of your car or your whole car. And I thought, okay, that's how the spirit's going to detach from the body. And
can I interrupt for 1 second? Can I just ask you how long between the angels starting to flap their wings till the vortex appeared? What was it?
Different with everybody. Different with everybody. For my mom, it was a few hours.
Okay.
Yeah, they showed up, I would say, maybe late afternoon. By early evening, the vortex had formed. But everybody goes through the 12 phases of transition, regardless of how they pass. If they die instantly, like in the case of a homicide or suicide, or they die over a prolonged period of time, days, weeks, months, even years, everybody goes through the 12 phases because time doesn't exist in the spirit world.
Right. What are the 12 phases? Could you share those?
Yeah. Let me finish this part about the vortex. This is happening. My mom's spirit goes up. Those angels escorted her spirit to heaven, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I thought, okay, I'm just going to see what comes up if I do a search on owl wings vortex. Come to find out, Brad, there's this aeronautical engineering phenomenon that every pilot knows, and it happens with anything that flies, how the air goes over and under the wings, and it creates what's called a wingtip vortex.
Okay.
You research that online, you will see thousands of pictures and articles and diagrams, and every pilot knows this. So every jet, every plane, every bird, every bug, every kite, anything that flies, the wingtip vortex happens and it causes upward lift. And I'm thinking, holy Moses, these angel wings moving form this vortex that I could see, I could feel, I could hear, and it caused the upward lift to help my mother's spirit detach from her body. And I've seen it thousands of times since. Wild, number 1. Number 2, the spirit always goes up and to the right as I'm facing the person watching this in my mind's eye. And I was giving a talk about this a couple of years ago. And I said, I don't know why the spirit always goes up and to the right, but it always does. And this gentleman came up to me after my talk and he said, I know why the spirit goes up and to the right. And I said, okay. Why? And he said, I'm a physicist. I'm a physics professor at whatever school. I said, okay, please enlighten me. And he said, think about screwing and unscrewing a lid on a jar. When you want it to go down, you screw it clockwise. When you want it to come up and off, you screw it counterclockwise. Counterclockwise, you bring it up and off, always to the right. Because it's counterclockwise. So I say, I love it when science catches up with, whoa.
I think that's the thing. Someone said that to me in an interview a little while back, that science is finally starting to
Yeah.
catch up with spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And furthermore, there's university-based research now that shows that 90% of people at the end of their lives see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as they're dying.
Only 90%? Not
90%.
100%?
90%. That's
Hmm.
what their research shows.
Hmm.
So certainly we think, oh, grandma's hallucinating because they're giving her morphine. The hospice people are giving her morphine. She doesn't really see her dead mother. Yeah, she really is able to see and communicate with her mother who died 40 years ago
It's
and
so
still believe
funny.
them. Yeah.
It's so funny you brought that up, because I was talking with my friend yesterday, and I'd never told him about the OBE that my grandmother had. And he was saying, "How do you know she wasn't hallucinating?" I'm like, "No, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't buy that." No, she told me the story. She never ever finished the story for me. The last part of the story that she told me was she went down the tunnel. The light was beautiful. She saw someone. She never told me who it was. At the end, saying,
It was
"No,
her
it's not your
father.
time."
Her father.
Was it? He told you have to go back. It's not your time.
Yeah, it was her father.
And
Yeah, but the thing about all of that too, I think that's so amazing with the hallucinations versus being able to see spirits is in the research, hallucinations are upsetting to the person.
right.
These visions of deceased loved ones and pets and angels and all of that, they're comforting. They know telepathically what's going on. They know what they mean. They're
Mhm.
excited about it. They know that those people are going to be waiting for them. I've had a doctor on my show, Chris Kerr, who's an MD, PhD, who did research at the University of Buffalo. And he talks about that. And he said there's all kinds of research about hallucinations. And he said, these are really comforting. And they see it. And 90% of people see those. And it's usually 6 months prior to their passing is when they start, which is a clue to people when they think, how close to death is my loved one? And they're starting to tell you they're seeing, and they see horses, they're pet horses, they see other pets, they see other loved ones.
My grandmother would tell me that. So after that experience, she ended up living for, I was 17 when that happened. I'm now 55. So she passed away 5 years ago. So she lived a good another 30, 40, 50 years, 40 years, sorry. But she would tell me that she would see her mother at the end of her bed. Her mother would come to her, but that wasn't anywhere near close to her passing.
Yeah. But she was able to see her mom was one of her spirit guides.
It's just
She's coming
wild.
for a visit.
Yeah.
And you know your grandmother well enough. Your grandmother's not going to make that up. Why would she?
No, exactly. No, and that's why I said, no, this is what she told me. This is what she saw. She has no reason to lie to me.
Exactly. And little children are all very intuitive, which is
Yeah.
why I wrote my children's series of books. And they're picture books. They're really cute. It's angel messages for kids. You can see, look how gorgeous the illustrations are. And there's 4 of them.
Amazing.
And so I had many moms and grandmothers over the years, Brad, say to me, can you write a book that will help me explain how my 3-year-old son knows stuff about my grandfather who died 20 years before my son was born? And he says grandpa comes to play trains with him at night in his room. And the stuff that he talks about is correct. There's no way this little child could know that. And how does my grandson know that information about a past life? One of my girlfriends called me one day and she said, okay, my grandson, her grandson's name was Walter, is Walter. That's so funny. Walter was 3 or 4, excuse me, he was in the pool with his mom. He goes, Mom, you're my favorite of all my mommies. She goes, honey, I'm your only mommy. He goes, no, Mom, you're my favorite of all my mommies. And she said, again, honey, I'm your only mommy. He said, Mom, babies are born to mommies and daddies. They grow up, they die, and then they're born to new mommies and daddies. They grow up, they die. This kid's 3. And he goes, and you're my favorite of all my mommies. And so she's on the phone with her mom, and her mom's calling me going, what the heck? And then the other one that's just so sweet is we say, honey, granddad's in heaven now. And a little Susie says, no, he's not. He's asleep in that box in the front of your room because they're at the funeral home. So little children are all very intuitive, and they talk about their imaginary friends, and they talk about all these other things. And we say, oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That isn't real. And we get them to shut it down. What I encourage parents and grandparents to do is just talk to them about it and encourage it, because it gives them an amazing guidance system in addition to their cerebral thought processes. And it gives them an additional guidance system that really helps them in their everyday lives.
I love that. Okay, so back to, can you explain and share what the 12 stages are for me?
Yeah. First thing that happens, phase 1, spirit exits the body like a cartoon caption bubble, that the spirit bubble hangs onto the top of the head, Brad. Phase 2, the maternal spirit comes in, closest person to closest maternal person who raised the dying person. So if this is an adopted person, it'll be the adopted mother, the mother that raised them. And then that really surprised me. I thought, because it was my Meemaw who had died 6 months prior to my mom. And I was like, Meemaw's running this. I expected God had a dying department in heaven, and he'd say, okay, Brad's dying, dispatch a bunch of angels to go help with the process. No, like air traffic control. I did have a friend's dad who was hanging on. I talk about it in the book. Louis was his name. It was a riot. And I'd say, Louis, what are you waiting for? He said, like, for clearance. I said, you mean like heavenly air traffic control? He goes, yeah. I said, okay.
Clearance to fly.
Clearance to enter. Yeah, clearance to land. So then the paternal spirit comes in, and it's always on the maternal side. My dad's deceased. When I'm dying, my dad's spirit will be there. If my dad was still alive, it would be my maternal grandmother or grandfather, excuse me. It's always on the maternal line, which I find interesting, because there are many cultures that, like in the Jewish culture, a child is not Jewish unless the mother's Jewish that birthed them. So that's old. That's ancient stuff. And then around phase 3, the angels come in. And these are big old angels. I perceive them. Angels, big wings, white gown, rope belt, bare feet, 12 years of Catholic schools. That's what the statues and the artwork look like.
Yeah.
That's how I was taught angels look. To somebody in an indigenous culture in the middle of the Amazon, angel energy may look like a ball of purple fog. Spirit's always going to show us themselves in a way that we can understand it based on our own human frame of reference.
Okay.
So the angels come and they form a circle, Brad, around the person who's dying. So let's say, for this example, the person who's dying is laying in a bed, face up. The maternal and paternal spirit are at the feet. The angels form a circle with those parental spirits anchoring the circle. As the person's getting closer to death, that circle opens up into a horseshoe, eventually into a straight line across the foot of the bed. I call that angelic crowd control, because midway through, thousands and thousands of spirits show up. I call them the Welcome to Heaven Committee. Thousands from all walks of life, from all of that person's lifetimes. And they're in period dress. We have caveman people dressed. We got Renaissance dressed people. We've got twiggy mini skirts and go-go boots dressed people. People who are familiar from this lifetime usually will be near the front, but it's just massive. It's like the walls on the side and the back of the room disappear. It's just this massive crowd. Pet spirits show up. I referenced that earlier. It's so fun when farm animals show up. I had a client who told me that her dad had a white horse and his name was Charlie or something. And Charlie started visiting him a couple months before he was dying. And he was, Charlie, I know, I'm just not ready yet. And she said, he talked to Charlie with all of them in the room. And some of her family members thought he'd really lost his mind, but no, he was talking to Charlie. Charlie was there. He could see him. So that happens. As I mentioned, the 2 angels show up on either side of the spirit bubble halfway through. Their wings start to move. The spirit evacuates from the body, detaches, is escorted to heaven. And heaven looks like this big yellowish, whitish plasma wall to me, Brad. We throw it seals up instantly. Did you see the movie Contact with Jodie
Yes.
Foster? You know how when she's on the other planet, spoiler alert, and she touches the air and it's
Yeah.
plasma? That's what heaven looks like to me. By the way, I've never seen St. Peter with a clipboard outside of the pearly gates going, yeah, you're allowed in. No, you got to go fry for eternity. Never seen it. And so that's what happens. Interesting point about that. At my mom's funeral, and I'd been to many Catholic funerals over the years, there's a prayer said at the end of every Roman Catholic funeral called In Paradisum. And
Okay.
in Latin, it translates to into paradise. It talks about how the angels and loved ones will greet you and lead you into paradise. And I thought, whoa, that's what I just saw happen with my mom. So when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I thought, I wonder where that prayer originated. And I looked it up. And what I learned, Brad, was it began as a 5th century Gregorian chant. So perhaps it took till the 5th century till somebody was well educated enough and they could read and write.
Yeah.
And they wrote it down. It was probably some monk in a monastery or a synagogue because the well educated people were men
Yeah.
at that point. And I thought, I bet people have been able to see this since the beginning of time. And it took till the 5th century till somebody wrote it down. And I'd heard that prayer, who knows how many times.
Yeah.
By the time I was in my mid 40s. And I really heard it at my mom's funeral because I had just witnessed it all happening. So I call it the 12 phases of transition.
Wild. So when you scan the energy of humanity right now, collectively,
Yeah.
what does our global aura look like? And what scares you the most about what you see? What gives you the most hope?
It's very bright, very high energy. People say all the time, oh, we're more divided than we've ever been in our lives, especially here in America. Really? Ever heard of the Civil War? You had people in the same family shooting each other on different sides of the battle. No, we've always had these conflicts. It's just that we have a 24/7 news cycle that
Social media.
keeps us informed. When there were battles going on in Europe, do you think that the indigenous people of America, the Native Americans, were worried about it? No, they didn't know about it. And so that's the difference. And we need that dichotomy of when we know what we don't want, it helps us create what we do want. And that's why we're all here, is to create. If everything was just hunky all the time, first of all, it'd be boring, really. That's what I hear from spirits in heaven. Heaven's, it's great, but we want to come back to earth because it's so much fun to create. And you create out of conflict and out of things that you want to experience in your life. So when people talk about doom and gloom, there's an old adage in the news business, and it's called, if it bleeds, it leads. The more controversial, the more frightening the story, the more it's going to be talked about because it's clickbait. You get more eyeballs watching the news, which means they can charge the advertisers more money because it's a cost per 1,000 eyeballs watching the news. If you're watching something online, you click to see more of it. What's the click? Again, it's cost per 1,000 clicks to the advertisers. It's all about revenue.
Yeah, that's why you don't see a lot of heartfelt good stories about puppy dogs and rainbows and ice cream, because that doesn't sell.
Doesn't sell. And the thing that cracks me up the most, Brad, is on the national news, I think ABC or one of them goes, the best heartwarming story of the week. They got an hour of bad stuff and they put one story in there to give you some warm fuzzies. It's like, really, people? What else do you need to know? The other thing is, we're all hardwired for joy. Look at a baby. Babies are happy.
Yeah.
Unless they're hungry or they need to be changed or they're in pain or they're tired. Their natural state is happy.
It's our birthright.
It's our birthright. And we all need to lighten up.
Yes, we do. You're right.
Yeah.
I believe there is far more good in the world than there is bad. It's just we see all the bad because of the social media, because of the news cycles, there are far more good people out there in the world than there are bad. Yeah. It's just the bad is presented to us in that light all the time because that sells.
And think about this. when we're watching all the bad stuff all the time and we're thinking about the bad stuff and we're in fear, what happens when we're in fear? We go into fight or flight. What happens in fight or flight? Our cortisol levels go up, our norepinephrine levels go up, the blood drains from our brain goes to our heart and extremities so we can run away from the fear. And there was a car crash in France on the other side of the world, but we're still in fear because we feel bad watching it. What's the root cause of all disease and illness?
Emotion.
Inflammation.
Yes.
Inflammation's coming
repressed
from
emotions.
Exactly. Coming from living in fight or flight because we're watching that sad stuff. Turn off the news.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I interviewed a woman a while back, and she was an NHS nurse in the UK, and she was diagnosed with bowel cancer. She went through radiation, chemo. They said they got rid of it. She went back for a follow-up. I don't remember the time lapse, but she went back for a follow-up. They told her, sorry, but you have cancer in multiple organs. You're stage 4. There's nothing we can do for you. You're going to have to come live out the rest of your life in London in a hospital. Tell your husband you're going to have to move down to London, and that's where you live out the rest of your days. And she said, nope, I refuse to accept that. I'm not doing that. What she did was she went back. She started looking for joy, started doing things that brought her joy, started reading all positive stuff, shut off all news, all social media, reverted back to things that brought her joy when she was a kid, doing all these different things. She traveled. She came back. They wanted her decision. What are you going to do? She said, you know what? I want you to scan me, to give me a scan to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
She went in, she got the scan, she went back home. They called her in for the results. She walks in, the doctor's like this. He's like, I don't know what you did, but you are completely cured.
Yeah.
It's up here. This is such a huge part of it is our minds and how powerful our minds are. People don't realize that. But of course, we don't know what we don't know. And when we get bad news like that, like you have the big C, of course you're going to be upset. Of course it's going to weigh on your mind. It's just a matter of, do you have the strength, the inner strength that is, and the mindset to overcome that so that you don't spiral downward into the negativity of the diagnosis you've just been given. That's part of it.
And get railroaded into treatments that you don't want because it's a huge industry.
Yes, for sure.
You think about the cure for cancer. They know how to cure cancer.
Of course they do.
But
they've had that cure for years.
It's such a huge industry. And I was in the medical industry for 30 years, and it does a lot of good. And to your point, yes, it's the power of the mind. I have clients where one comes to mind. She's also a graduate of my class, and she had a ganglion cyst on her hand. And I was working with her and her husband over an hour for an appointment. And so we worked on the cyst, and then worked with her husband. And before we got off the phone, she said, Julie, that cyst is completely gone in less than an hour. And I said, I know. But is it the placebo effect? Who cares? It's gone.
Who gives a shit? It's gone. That's all that matters.
Really, medical research on drugs, the placebo always performs better than the actual drug. Always. On average, 52%, the patient will receive good benefits from taking a sugar pill that they think is the actual medicine. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Wild.
Yeah.
It's so amazing how powerful our minds are and the power of our minds. We, as you talked about earlier, the healing, the powers we have to heal ourselves. All you have to do is look at your hand, or if you cut your hand, it heals itself. We have that power. We have that ability.
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's what you believe and what you embody. You have to embody that belief as well. The body is a magical machine. It really is.
Miraculous.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you stripped away religion, culture, dogma, and only told the story of death and the afterlife based on what you've personally witnessed, what part of that story would cause the most outrage in the public, do you think?
That all spirits are pure love and everybody goes to heaven.
People just don't believe it.
People get belligerent about it. It says in the Bible, blah, 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 blah. I go, yeah, it also says that scholars, let's face it, scholars have been analyzing the crap out of the Bible since the beginning of time. They're still doing it.
Yeah.
It's been thousands of years, and they're still pontificating on what it means. And Hades, which has been translated into hell, is an eternal burning pit. That's where people who were criminals were sent to Hades. Hades was a leper colony in the middle of the desert, and it did feel like you were burning for eternity, and it was miserable, and it was suffering, and all of that got translated into hell and a fiery burning pit. And I'm no Bible scholar, but I've heard several. It's fascinating to me how through the different translations and the different, who was in rule during the different councils, and how did they want the Bible to be structured, and it's the word of God. Yeah, but it's changed every time it's translated from different languages and stuff. There are meanings in Greek and Aramaic that don't translate into English and other languages. So I think the other thing is that people believe things that aren't true, and they choose not to believe things that are true. And Soren Kierkegaard, the what do you want to call him? I don't know what you call him. He was like a wise man back in the day. He says fools believe things that aren't true, and other people choose not to believe things that are true. So where I go with that, Brad, is here's my experience. There's a lot of stuff to back it up.
Yeah.
Not only with historic documentation, but also with real life validation. If you want to believe it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. That's all part of your journey. My role is to let you know about it. Here's what I experienced. Does this resonate with you? Most people have experienced a loved one talking to a deceased loved one as they're dying. A lot of people have. Most medical providers, especially the critical care ones, do. And so I know that this information gives a lot of comfort and peace to people. And that's why I give away my book for free, because I think it's probably way even more involved than Clement even thought I'd do. Like, okay, Clement, I'm going to show you, buddy. You want me to teach the world here. You can have my book for free. But it's just a matter of see if it feels calm and comfortable to you when you read something. When you're reading or listening to my angelic attendants, which by the way, there are diagrams in here about the different phases of transition, and it shows the positions. When you read that, do you feel at peace about that? Even if it goes against what you believe, what you've been taught? If it does, then ponder it some. Go to the place of, is it feasible? Yeah. Do I understand it? No. Do I know it's completely true? No. But how does it feel?
Yeah.
Versus how does it feel when somebody's talking to you in fire and brimstone saying, you steal a cookie from the cookie jar when you're 5, you're destined to burn in hell for eternity. How's that feel? Well, it feels ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
But it also, so many people throughout the ages, and even now, I think they're starting to die off. They all bought into all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
My favorite one was, you eat, as a Catholic, you eat meat on Friday, you're going to go burn in hell. It's a mortal sin. And then probably when I was in high school, they changed it. That wasn't a thing anymore. I thought, what about all those people that are burning in hell because they ate meat
for
on
the
Friday?
meat they ate?
Yeah. Isn't that a great example?
That's crazy. It is. It is. What is one energetic truth you see in people that no one talks about, but could completely transform how we live if we acknowledged it?
We have the ability to communicate with spirit and get guidance at any moment for free on any topic, anywhere, anytime. And it's convenient because you can do it wherever your brain is, and your brain's usually with you wherever you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
If someone could see the world through your perception for one day, what would shock them the most about the energy we carry and the way it shapes our reality?
That our thoughts create our reality. Yeah, change your thought and your reality will change.
Again, it's the power of this computer we have on our shoulders.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Our section of our neighborhood, there's a 4-way stop sign to get out of our section of our neighborhood, to get onto the main drag, to get in and out of the neighborhood. And my husband, Tim, God love him, every time he is at that four-way stop sign for decades, somebody runs the stop sign. I never have anybody run the four-way stop sign ever. And so I said to him one day, and it even happens when I'm in the car with him, because he's what he expects. So I said to him one day, honey, just change your thoughts and expect that everybody's going to stop like they're supposed to at that four-way stop sign. No, that's not going to work. I said, just try it. See what happens.
Humor me.
Exactly. You know what? Nobody's run the stop sign since he changed the way he was thinking about it.
So powerful.
Yeah.
So truly powerful.
Yeah.
When you look at humanity as a whole, what do you sense we're capable of spiritually if we truly understood what the unseen world has been showing us over the years, over the span of history?
That we're able to live lives of joy and purpose easily. And we can create anything. I laugh when I think about the Jetsons. I loved the Jetsons cartoon when I was a kid. Meet George Jetson.
Yeah.
And they had what they have. They had TVs that you could see somebody on. They had phones that you could see somebody on. They had flying cars. Elon's saying he's got a prototype for one. We got the drones. We got cars that drive themselves. We have robots that clean our houses. We got the Roombas.
Yeah.
All this stuff. The Simpsons are crazy. Whoever's writing those scripts, they are in this serious woo, because there's so much that they talk about that comes to fruition. They got somebody that really knows.
Tapped in.
Oh, yeah, big time. So I think that's the thing, that we can create absolutely anything that we can dream up. I have a communications degree. I'm an inventor of surgical devices. How's that work?
Yeah, yeah.
I know how to hire engineers who can draw up my ideas. And I know how to hire people that are manufacturing experts, and I can tell them, here's what we need to manufacture. So I think we can create anything we want. We can create the life that we want, but we have to take action.
Yes,
That's the missing link.
Intentional, aligned action.
We got to take a step. Step doesn't have to be big. You can just look something up online, and then you'll be led to another website. Before long, you're at the 8th website and you're thinking, I don't even remember how I got here. We're led, but you got to take action. Yeah. I talked to a woman yesterday who's been single for 20 years, and she said, I do my thoughts every day and my whatever you call them things, that the perfect guy is going to show up and all that. And I said, what are you doing to help that along? Are you involved in any kind of philanthropic things? Are you online on a dating site? What are you doing? She goes, no, but I do my affirmations every day. And I said, you're not Cinderella. He's not going to come on a white horse and want a cool drink of water out of and ring your doorbell. You've got to take action.
I love it. I know you mentioned the show. Can you just tell us briefly about the show again, just so people know?
Yeah. Ask Julie Ryan, the Ask Julie Ryan show. Thank you for asking that, Brent. We have interviews of wonderful people from all over the world, all walks of life, there's a spiritual component there, but researchers and historians and professors and mediums and whatever, physicians. And then we do a call-in show every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, and people can join and be on camera and have a conversation with me and ask their question, or they can come in through the YouTube live stream and put a question in the chat. And we have 5 YouTube channels in 5 languages: English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and German.
Amazing.
If you prefer to listen in a different language, it's really funny when I see myself after it's been dubbed and I'm speaking Spanish. I'm like, oh, it's hilarious.
I will put the link for the show in the show notes as well.
AskJulieRyan.com. Everything's there. I have a weekly blog. People submit questions. I do a monthly live where people join, and it's kind of like the show, but without any interruptions or ads or anything.
Yeah.
And people can do that. I have 5 graduates that work with me and do appointments. Okay. And you can get in to see them usually quicker and less expensively than for me. I'm always looking for ways that are either free or low cost for people to get their answers.
I love it. Thank
or
you
the
for sharing
questions
that.
that are rumbling around in their
Learning,
brains.
yes.
Yeah.
When you, sorry, if you tuned in right now and asked the angels what humanity's single greatest blind spot is at this particular moment in history, what would they say?
Lighten up and look for the joy.
Okay.
We're too serious. We're bringing all this on ourselves.
Yeah.
We're hardwired for joy. To your story earlier about the nurse in the UK,
Mhm.
I've heard that from other cancer patients. They just watch funny movies.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
watch Caddyshack.
As they say, laughter is the best medicine.
Laughter is the best medicine. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
lighten up, Francis.
If you could sit every single human being down and show them in real time what the soul experiences when we die, what single revelation would you want burned into our consciousness forever?
That we're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as we're transitioning, and then we're greeted by those loved ones once we get to heaven. I had a client and we talked to her dad's spirit in heaven. And she said, what was the thing that was the most remarkable? And he talked about going through the vortex, and he said it was like shards of iridescent glass that was spinning around him. Like he said, it wasn't sharp, but it looked like these sparkly shards
Yeah.
of iridescence. And then he goes, it was like a magic trick. He's like, all those spirits that were in my room when I was dying, once I got to heaven, they were all there. He said it reminded me of the magician that puts the girl in the box
Yeah.
and then twirls her and taps her,
Yeah.
and then she lets the girl out of the box. It was amazing. It was like a magic trick. They're so much fun. Spirits are and normally when we're talking with them, if they're loved ones who are my clients, oftentimes we'll have a whole family on the call. We'll all be talking to grandma, and they'll just be in deep grief, and they'll come out with something just hilarious that will resonate with them, just to lighten them up.
Yeah. Just to shift the energy.
Because it's all about living a life of joy.
They don't want us grieving. They don't want us sad.
No. And I heard somebody say one time, Brad, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. When you smile, your brain thinks you're happy. So go out and smile. Go walk the aisles at Target. Just smile at everybody. Even if you're in a bad mood, force yourself to smile. And before long, you're not going to be in a bad mood anymore because your brain's going to think you're happy.
Love it. Love that advice. What does freedom mean to you at the very deepest level beyond money, status, or recognition?
The ability to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it.
So in heaven, like when you're in heaven.
I do it now. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
My first sales manager, that's why I started my first company in 25. My first sales manager, although my sales numbers were off the charts, he gave me grief because he didn't like how my trunk was organized. And I thought, who cares? I said, have you seen my numbers? I was 22. And he goes, yeah. And I said, why do you care how my trunk's? Because you'll be more efficient on that.
The numbers speak for themselves, buddy.
Really? That's freedom. My freedom was, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. I'm going to do my own thing where I'll have some idiot. And the funniest thing, Brad, this guy's last name was Swindler. It was a Fortune 500, huge multi-billion-dollar company. And this guy's name was Swindler.
Too funny.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
Happiness.
What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Am I a true entrepreneur or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section here. So the next grouping must just do one, two, three word answer.
I got a hard stop at 5 till 11.
Okay.
If I got a client.
Okay.
All right.
What is your favorite place on earth?
The Botanical Gardens here in Birmingham.
What is one of your secret or hidden talents?
Oh, wow. I love gardens, and I'm really good at designing them. I've designed our 1.5 acre gardens that looks like a botanical garden that surrounds our house.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Communicate with your spirits.
What is one of your guilty pleasures?
Watching Hallmark movies.
And it is the time.
It is
they
time.
Started November 1st, they started.
Christmas. You're always happy.
Yes.
The girl always gets kissed at the end. It's going to be a happy ending. It's like 1.5 hours. So it's not that long.
Yeah.
And I really like the ones that take place in foreign lands because I get to see the land and the culture and stuff like that.
What is one word that sums up your mindset?
Joyful.
One book that changed your life.
Anatomy of the Spirit.
What is the one word that defines the woman you are becoming?
What's the one word? Joyfully spiritual.
That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I created a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. How do you define love, both the kind you give and the kind you receive?
The highest vibration in existence.
Love it.
We're all pure love. Our spirits are all pure love.
If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation, where you're from, your ethnicity, your nationality, all of those day-to-day bullshit markers that we use in life, how would you describe yourself to me? How would you introduce yourself?
I'm Julie.
Okay. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Oh, no, you've done a really good job. And by the way, I didn't read any of those questions you sent me because I prefer it to be spontaneous.
Yes.
I think it's more fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
Thank you for sending them to me, but I didn't read any of them. Sorry. I know
Oh,
that was
that's
a lot
okay.
of extra work for you,
That's
maybe.
just a
but
that's just a
I
courtesy.
know, I appreciate that. I prefer to be spontaneous.
Yes.
I think it's more fun.
Spontaneity is for sure.
What would I have you ask me about my training?
Go ahead. Share.
I have training online that's self-paced. Everybody can do this. It's just a matter of developing and enhancing it. And I have self-paced training online with live practice groups, Brad, because the key is you can go to a workshop, you can read a book, you can listen to a podcast, but until you're doing it yourself, you don't really get it. Think about when you were learning to drive a car. You rode in a car with other people, you read the book, you watched the movies, but until you were behind that wheel, and until you were behind that wheel for a long time, you didn't really feel comfortable about it. Same with this. So I think that's the key to being able to do the buffet of psychicness, is to be able to practice it with people who are going to validate what you're getting. And then you trust it. And then it's just second nature. My big class called Angelic Attendance, we get together twice a year. One's online in the spring. It's May 16th and 17th, I believe, in 2026. People from all over the world join us. It's a weekend. You learn how to do the whole buffet of psychicness. And then in October, the 23rd through the 25th of 2026, we rent out a hotel in Atlanta, and it's adjacent to the Atlanta airport. And people fly in from all over the world, and we spend the weekend together and learn the buffet of psychicness. All of those classes, the big class, the Angelic Attendance that's live in person, it has multiple practice groups a week that are free for life.
Oh, amazing.
And so different time zones, different to try and reach people from different parts of the world who've taken the class. So the online self-paced ones, we've got one to communicate with spirits and what's happening when somebody's dying. And then we've got a medical intuitive one, and that's self-paced. Both of those have live practice sessions. And then the big one, you learn how to do everything, and that's live.
Do you have a buffet of psychicness online workshop that you hold? Or is it just,
in May.
Okay.
In May.
That's the online one.
So 17, but it's live online.
Yeah. And then the in-person one is in
in-person
October.
one's in October.
Okay.
It's always the weekend before Halloween. That's how I remember it. And then the two self-paced ones are, you take the modules at your own speed, but there are live practice groups. That go with each of those. So
excellent.
Anybody that's interested in learning how to do this stuff, it's super easy and it's so much fun, and it enhances your life in ways that you can't even imagine. Check that out. Everything's at AskJulieRyan.com.
Okay, perfect. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Virgin Mary.
And why Virgin Mary?
Because she's the symbol of love, and Isis, Virgin Mary, all of them. She's one of my spirit guides, so I talk to her, but she would be the one that I would. And really, mothers are the creators of the universe. That's the bottom line. Not that we wouldn't have any of this if we didn't have those of us who are mothers.
Yeah, very true.
And so she would be the one person that I would want to talk to. She always shows up with her white veil and her blue outfit because she looks like the statues to me. So that's how I know who she is.
Yeah.
And she always has her hands out like the statues do. I drive through a neighborhood and I think, oh, I bet there's an Italian that lives there because they got a Virgin Mary statue in the front yard.
Yeah.
All my Italian friends have Virgin Mary statues in the front yard.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Enjoy the ride.
Okay. Lastly, Julie, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your corner of the world, your tribe, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
You're surrounded by angels and loved ones' spirits and spirit guides, and you're never alone. They're surrounding you in love. They're there to help you. Just ask for their help, and they'll come help you in whatever way you need.
Beautiful. Julie, thank you so much. I have so enjoyed this conversation. It has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today, sharing your gifts, sharing your journey, and all the stories you shared. It has been an absolute pleasure. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to sit down and speak with you and share your wisdom, your knowledge, all of it with everyone that will get to experience it when they hear your episode. I'm honored to call you a friend, to have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you.
Oh, it's been a joy and a delight to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure and my honor. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Julie Ryan. She is a psychic medium, a medical intuitive, an author, a podcast host, and she has dubbed herself the buffet of psychicness. Have an amazing rest of your day, Julie. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye, everybody. Mwah!
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca, follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast, and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca, follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast.